We're ready to start, Chair.
Good morning, councillors, officers, members of the public and press. Welcome to this meeting of the Planning Committee. This meeting is a remote meeting being live streamed on the website and recorded. Joe is going to take us through the roll call and housekeeping, please.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Planning Committee. I'll start the meeting by way of a roll call. I'm going to say members' names. When I do that, if you could confirm that you have all the papers and that you can see and hear everything that is going on. I'll start with Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher.
Yes, I'm here and I've got my papers.
Thank you. Councillor James Brewer.
I'm here. I can hear but not see.
Thank
and
you.
I have my papers.
Thank you. Councillor Paddy Brown.
Yeah, I'm here and everything's in order.
Thank you. Councillor Bob Buchan.
Yes to all.
Thank you. We have apologies from Councillor Fleming with Councillor Shane Moore substituting.
Yep, I'm here and I have all of the paperwork.
Thank you. Councillor Marjorie James.
Yes, I'm here and I believe I have all the paperwork.
Thank you. Councillor Jim Lindridge.
Good morning. I can see, hear and have all the relevant paperwork.
Thank you. Councillor Brenda Loynes.
Good morning. I'm here and yes, I've got all the relevant paperwork. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carl Richardson.
Yes, I'm here and I've got everything. Thank you.
Councillor Cameron Stokel.
Hi there. Yes, I'm here and I've got everything.
And Councillor Mike Young.
Yes to all. Item 1's been dealt with as part of the roll call. Item 2 is to receive any declarations of interest by members. Does anybody have any declarations of interest? Councillor Little. Joe, can we just confirm which other councillors are on the call, please, as part of the roll call? Because that might be.
Yes. Apologies, Chair. Yes, we've also on the call. We've got Councillor Helen Howson, who is here to speak on an item, and Councillor Sue Little, who is also here to speak on an item.
Is Councillor Tony Richardson here as well today?
Yes, Councillor Tony Richardson is here today as well.
Thank you very much. Councillor Little, you wanted to speak?
It was just to show my presence, that's all, Chair. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, that was good because it highlighted. Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to highlight under item 5 that I know of the applicant, but I haven't got
exiting.
I haven't got a personal interest in this, or I haven't got a prejudicial, but I have been in these premises and I am aware of the owner, and I just think it's in the point of being open and transparent. I just needed to let that be known.
Thank you, Councillor Akers-Belcher. Any more declarations of interest? No, I have a prejudicial interest in item 4. And planning application number 1, 5 Grange Road. I'll be leaving the meeting at that point and we'll be taking nominations for a chair at that point in time. If that is all, we'll move on to item 3, 3.1 to confirm minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of September. Do I have a propose or a second, or are there any comments or questions?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there a second for that?
Chair.
3.1. Yes, Chair. Yes, Councillor Loynes.
Yeah, it was just I'll
You've gone on mute. Technology.
Oh, I know. I'll be without it. It was just last on the 2nd of September. I did ask for a site visit for Meadowcroft and also Cripston Close. I just wondered how far we'd got on with the.
We probably will cover that in any other business. To be fair, Councillor Loynes, because I think it's become a bit of a hot topic given the new regulations that have been imposed due to COVID. So we'll come to that in any other business if that's okay with you. Okay. Any other comments? Are we accepting these minutes as agreed? 3.1. No dissent. We'll take that as an agreement. 3.2. Minutes of the meeting held on the 16th September are to follow, and we'll get them out as soon as we can. So we'll go to item 4 and 4.1, which are plan applications. Item 1. Can I ask for nominations for a chair for this item, please? And I'll leave the meeting at that point. Councillor James.
Chair, can I move that Stephen Akers-Belcher take over the chair for this one item?
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Councillor Loynes, second it. Is there any dissent on that point? Any dissent? Okay, move progress. We'll take Councillor Stephen Akers Belcher as chair for item 1. If you just give me a minute, I've got to log out and stuff, Councillor Akers Belcher, so I'm just going to do that now. Come on.
Okay, thank you, members. We'll now progress with this item. If you could just be patient with me, because I'm not too sure if I can see everybody's indication, but Democratic Services are here to assist me in any indications made. So we have got Mr. Christopher Goundry, who is here as the applicant. But before we progress with that, we will start with Laura, who's going to deliver the report for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If you just bear with me a moment, I'll bring up the PowerPoint. Can everybody see that? Okay, thank you, Chair. The item is page 2 of your handout. The site relates to 5 Grange Road. The location of the property is shown on page 2, and that's better. There's a photograph of the property on page 3. Both the relevant planning history and the site context for the application site are set out within the committee report. Of particular note in terms of the history is a previously approved application for a similar use, albeit with a smaller number of occupants. Planning permission is sought to use the property as a residential institution in C2 use class, more specifically as the children's home for up to 5 occupants. This differs from the previously approved application, which allows up to 4. We can see on page 10 the previously approved layout. Bear with me. Which includes a staff room on the 2nd floor as well as a storeroom. It's now proposed that that staff room would become an additional bedroom. So you can see here. There are no external alterations proposed as part of the application. The application has been referred to Planning Committee due to the number of objections received in accordance with the Council scheme of delegation. The application was advertised in the usual way. 8 objections have been received from neighbouring occupiers as detailed in the report. Responses from technical consultees are also detailed within the committee report, but in summary, there are no objections raised. The main planning considerations are identified within the report. A residential use of this nature is considered to be acceptable in principle in what is broadly a residential area. This particular use class has already been established and is already able to operate as a result of the previously approved application, and therefore the primary issue to be considered is whether the additional occupant proposed by this application would materially alter any potential impacts of the use. A number of the objections received raise concerns about crime and antisocial behaviour. However, there are no objections raised by either the Council's community safety team or Cleveland Police. In addition, no concerns are raised by HBC Public Protection, and therefore it's not considered there'd be any undue impact on the amenity of neighbouring occupiers. Concerns have also been raised in relation to car parking. It's acknowledged the area relies on on-street parking. However, it's not considered one additional occupant at the property would notably alter the parking requirements. In addition, the property is in a sustainable location close to amenities and public transport links. No objections have been raised by HBC Traffic and Transport. Although the site is within the Grange Conservation Area, there are no external alterations proposed as part of the application, and therefore it's not considered there'd be any impact on the character of the conservation area. It's therefore considered that the development is in accordance with relevant local and national policy, and therefore the application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from members on the report, or just Councillor Richardson?
Yes, a couple of questions, few questions. Just on item on page 1.4, can you explain to me, and also for the benefit of the public, what is the difference between C2 and C3? And because it seems to be, there seems to be a contradiction. On the one hand, on 1.2, it says that the change of use to residential institution to C2 was approved on the 7th of the 11th. And then it says, since extending the age on 1.4, since extending the age range of the occupants to be housed, it has been requested by Ofsted that the property obtain a formal planning consent for the use of the property as a C2 residential institution.
Okay, Laura.
So in terms of the difference between a C3 and a C2, C3 would be a standard dwelling house. A C2 use would be a residential institution, so it would include an element of care provided for the people living in the property. The previous application, when that application came in, there was already probably a blur between whether or not it actually already moved into a C2 use, and the developer at that time wanted to have a formal planning decision issued to support their application to Ofsted, which is why they'd submitted that application. So there was a possibility that actually that use was already operating at the time they submitted an application.
Right, okay. Okay.
Sorry, there's some feedback somewhere. I don't know. Councillor Richardson, have you finished with your questions?
No, I've got a few questions, Chair. On page 2, I have a question for the community safety people. Has there been any complaints from this home to community safety, and also to the police? Has there been any call-outs to the police as regards this particular home? And as regards public protection, has public protection received any complaints in the past of this home in the last 2 years?
Is anybody able to answer that or respond from the council?
I believe we have Adrian from Public Protection. I don't know that there's anybody available from Community Safety.
Okay, Adrian, do you want to try and assist, please?
Yeah, I can only speak on behalf of Public Protection. I'm not aware that we've received any complaints about this property while it's been operating in the last few years.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Richardson?
Yeah, I've just got nothing from the police and nobody from community safety. Okay. Just a question for Sarah Scargill. I noticed that she is here. She might be able to answer this. I see on the photographs that there's a fence there. Is that in keeping with the conservation area? When did they have planning permission for that? Because I know other residents in Grange Road would have difficulty in putting a fence. I know in the past we've stopped people from putting fences up. Can I ask Sarah, is this in keeping with the conservation area?
Sorry, I don't have information with regard to when that fence was erected. It may well have been put up prior to the conservation area being designated.
No, I don't think so. Can I ask, has planning permission been received for that fence?
Sorry, I don't have that information. It might be something that
to assist with this, I think what we'll do is I'll take that as a referral, Councillor Richardson, and we'll ask the officers to look into the matter separate to this. And obviously, if that is the case, then a decision will need to be made if there's enforcement to be taken. So if that's acceptable, we'll move on because I've got a few speakers. Have you finished with all your questions, Councillor Richardson?
For the moment, yes.
Councillor Marjorie James.
Good morning, Chair. I want to ask the question, and to be fair, I'm also giving forward notice that an answer would be required by the proposer of this application. The outline says that the intention is to remove what would be staff arrangements for it to become bedroom. Now, the reason that there has been minimal disturbance from this location for residents is that there has been good staffing arrangements in place most of the time. So if that staffing area is to be removed, is that an indication that there will be less staff on site on a regular basis, because I would want to know where those staff are going to be located.
Okay. Marjorie, what we'll do is we'll hold that because we're into questions of the officer at the moment, but that valid point will be picked up, and I can see Mr. Goundry making notes of this, so hopefully he'll address that at the appropriate point in the meeting. Okay. We've got Councillor Loynes who's indicated.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure in the last couple of years there was something about the fence on the wall. I don't know whether other members can remember. And a gate springs to mind, so it did come to committee. It's just I'm not quite sure. I don't know whether you can remember, Stephen.
I can remember something, but as I say, as Councillor Richardson has said, this has been an issue over a number of years, but I would like to separate this issue with members and deal with it as has been suggested. So if members can be mindful of that and leave that in the appropriate direction to be dealt with at the appropriate time.
That's
okay? Thank you. But I do remember there's been that many, I think. Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry to bring this up. It just seems silly that we're having this discussion, but can we just have it clarified from officers then that the comments there from Councillor Richardson in relation to fencing and any planning application for it, whether there is planning application or any issue with the fence, it's got nothing to do with the current application and therefore is irrelevant to what we're discussing today.
I think we have said that. But as I say, there has been an option put forward, as any member can do, to make a referral, and that's why I want to separate this issue from the meeting. I just don't think it's appropriate at this time, and that's why I'm trying to find a solution to move forward. Unless any officers want to contradict that or add anything to it, then we'll move on. Okay. Brenda, did you indicate again?
Chair, no.
I've got two
my
more.
up? Sorry.
Yes, there's
Okay.
got.
Sorry about that.
I've got Jim Ferguson.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I'm actually working from home. One of the advantages is I can try and look up the planning history, so I'll do that while the meeting progresses. But you're right, the fence has no bearing on the current application. I have a memory like Brenda that this issue was the subject of a decision. So what I'll do while we're discussing it now, I'll go on my other computer and I'll try and locate see if there was an application for the fence.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I think it's acceptable as long as it's only from a plan and history point of view.
Yes.
But I don't want to get drawn into this.
No.
And I think it's important that if members want that from a plan and history, but I would prefer it if we didn't have debate, because a councillor has made a referral and we just need to let the process take its place now. Okay. Is there any other questions to the officers? No. Thank you, Laura. We'll now invite Mr. Goundry. You've got 4 minutes, please, to put your points across.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members and officers. My name is Chris Goundry. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Hennessy Group. Firstly, I would just like to say that we are a different provider to the previous provider. We are new tenants. We are a new provider. I'd like to thank and acknowledge the report from Laura. There's not much to add that I wish to add to that, apart from just to clarify that we are a different provider. We work to a different set of regulations. I'm aware that the previous provider did not register with Ofsted. We will. That's why we're looking to have this plan permission amended, so that we will be heavily regulated, and we have lots of audits, lots of different regulations, of course not least from quality monitoring from Hartlepool and the other local authorities themselves. Just to address the councillor's question on the staffing arrangements, and I can confirm that the property has 6 bedrooms, so there were already 2 bedrooms allocated or available to staff. There is an office within the building as well that has accommodation for staff. The young people we would be looking to support would need more staff. So the staffing levels would be increased. There wouldn't be necessarily sleep-in staff or just one member of staff. There'd be waking nights. So there'd be actually be more staff there to support the young people. And at that point, I'm happy to invite questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor James, before I bring other members in, are you happy with the response, or did you want to pick up anything from
No,
that
I
question?
think the response was quite adequate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chair. I don't know if I missed a bit there, but are we saying there's going to be more staff but less staff facility? How exactly will that work?
Thank you, Councillor. The idea is we wouldn't need the 2 bedrooms for staff because they wouldn't be sleeping in. They would actually be awake. So there would be a bedroom, but there's also an office with all the facilities and couches and beds in there as well. So they wouldn't need a separate bedroom to sleep in.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Councillor Brown, can I just check, you made a reference that you may have missed part of the meeting. Was that just a figure of speech, or I'm just concerned if you have missed it, that would disbar you from voting. So if you could confirm, please.
Yeah, I can confirm I haven't been anywhere. I haven't missed anything. If he'd said that, I hadn't registered, but he hadn't said it in the event. But he has now, and his answer is perfectly acceptable.
That's fine. I just needed to check that. Councillor Richardson.
Sorry, I'd ask the applicant that you're saying there's going to be staff there during the night. If so, how many? So they're going to be awake, because some of the problems that's been there in the past have been on the night time, I understand. But Councillor Howson might know more about that than I do.
Thank you, Councillor. There will be a minimum staffing level for the house, which is usually 2 staff in any 24 hours. That increases depending on the needs of the young people. So across the 5 young people, they might need 1 support worker each. They might need what is effectively half a support worker or 2 support workers. So that increases, but it would never go below 2 qualified staff members at any one time.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments, questions? No, I'll just do a final call. There's no questions. Okay, we'll move on. So there will be no other opportunity now to ask any questions of the applicant as we're moving on. Councillor Howson, I'd like to invite you now to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here on behalf of residents who have approached me to raise objections and concerns, and I ask that the committee take note of these serious concerns. There have been reports of serious antisocial behaviour, fighting outside of Five Grange Road, and that includes a neighbour who has reported various incidents to the police, who attended the Civic Centre, spoke to an officer there who took a statement, who subsequently went and visited the premises, and I am told there was an apology forthcoming. There are a lot of concerns about what this is actually attracting into the area and the management of it. People are fearful, they're very concerned, there have been lots of complaints, and it's quite concerning that these haven't been shown in any reports anywhere, because that's certainly happened with residents. So it seems to me that any extension of this that is granted is likely to attract more problems. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Howson. Anyone want to raise any questions with Councillor Howson? No? Okay, we'll now move on. We're now going to move into general debate, and I'll just remind members that you will have 1 opportunity to speak. So please use that opportunity if you'd like to say something. Who would like to start the debate? Councillor Richardson.
Yes, well, Chair, I would like I would like to move rejection of this on the basis that I'm not happy that I've asked certain questions, and in particular with the police not being here, and I know for a fact, and it's been touched upon by Councillor Howson, that the police have been called, and yet they're not there to substantiate that claim. I also understand that there was fighting to such an extent that resident went into the council office. Is it not true that it was that bad that the owners gave that lady flowers? What I'm concerned about more than anything else, that where it is situated on both sides of that house, there are residents. One resident with a family of 3. And across the road, there are a number of other residents, and they have witnessed over the years some, you can only describe, appalling behaviour to such an extent that the staff that were there lost control. I am not confident that the staff that are going to be there are going to have control of that situation, especially when we don't even know who's going to be in there and what kind of people are going to be there. So I would hope that the committee would reject this particular application.
Okay, Councillor Richardson, you've made a proposal which we will deal with in the normal way, but would be helpful from a planning point of view if you could outline any objections in terms of material planning consideration. If I could ask you, obviously you're leading a debate on this, and if I could ask you to lay out what those material and there must be material matters are.
It would be antisocial behaviour, and especially on past experience when the same thing has happened. And if we remember, the people before that said, oh yes, it was going to be okay, we'd have staff living in. It'll be antisocial behaviour is the main issue.
Okay, I've got Paddy Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to second what Carl is saying there, and I do think it's disappointing that we haven't got what seem to be some very fundamental facts before us. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, for me, one of the most important roles I carry out, I feel, within this council and have done for the past 5 years now, is that of a corporate parent. And one thing that really kind of grinds me is the automatic assumption that any child entering care or any child needing to go into care, whether it be for a permanent or temporary basis, is automatically a wrong 'un and they're going to cause trouble. And that really annoys me. And I think that some people should know better, to be honest. As far as I can see, there is no objection from the police in relation to this application, and I'll be fully supportive of it. Though I do take on board the concerns raised by members.
Okay, we've got Councillor Loynes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm much the same as Councillor Moore. Again, a corporate parent, and it shouldn't be that every child is classed as being unruly or whatever. I think if the company that's took over, if they've got a minimum of 2 staff, and it has to be a minimum of 2 at any one time, and also I'll read the Cleveland Police report. It says they've checked the systems for both the subject addresses and those in the vicinity and can find no issues which would impact on the application process. So I'm going to support the application because we do need to have homes for children, and 1 extra child, I don't think it'll make that much difference. If it was half a dozen more, maybe, but 1 extra, I don't think that's going to cause too much of a problem. Thank you.
Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. I also would support Councillor Moore and Councillor Loynes on this issue, and the reasons for that is that this is a new provider who's confirmed that, and I believe that most of the issues that are being outlined by members, whilst they are concerning that they took place historically under a different provider. I think I'm quite happy with the responses given by Mr. Goundry, and I think that we should actually allow this application to go through. Many young children do suffer lots of different deprivations within their households, resulting in them coming into care, and we should be supporting those young people. Maybe they have been a wrong 'un in the past. It's the role of those taking up their care to ensure that they return to a pathway that is acceptable socially.
Okay, Councillor Stokel.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just to echo basically what Councillor James, Councillor Moore and Councillor Loynes have said, that this is a new provider. A minimum of 2 qualified staff will be there. We shouldn't really judge based on historic incidences what would stop one extra child from being looked after. Thank you.
Okay, we have had our debate now. I haven't got any. Oh, Jim.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was comfortable with the applicant's response in relation to.
Sorry, just to do apologise, Councillor Lindridge. I wasn't clear.
Oh,
I wasn't invited, but go ahead anyway. So I went Jim Ferguson, and I didn't see your indication. So over to you, Jim.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was about to raise the question that Councillor James had raised actually in relation to the staffing issues. The applicant answered them adequately as far as I was concerned. However, it's the first time that, in terms of the antisocial behaviour issue, that was raised by Councillor Howson. I'm not aware of that. I am concerned the fact that there appears to have been no link up between community safety and police and the alleged reports that Councillor Howson has indicated there. So that is a concern for me, and I'm a little bit confused as to whether how you proceed in terms of allegations that don't seem to have been recorded. So are there any views from Chair or
I'll bring
or the council officers? Thanks.
I'll bring Jim Ferguson in because he had indicated. So Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, I was actually coming in on the fence issue, but I will respond in terms of Jim's latest question. Just in respect to the fence, as we all, or some of us suspected, this did go before Planning Committee on the 9th of May 2018, where the fence was approved. Members might recall that members were minded to approve it, and there was a condition that it was stained dark oak. So I think that that solves the mystery of the fence. In relation to the issues raised, what I would remind members is that this is a use that exists that can continue to operate, albeit one less child. So refusing this application won't stop the use. In terms of the consultations we've done, we have consulted the police, we have consulted community safety, and neither of those have objected to the use. So one presumes that that's in full cognizance of the history of the use of the property. So I think it's clear in the report and from our point of view that we're recommending approval of the application. Thank you.
Okay. I have got indications from people who've already spoken on this matter. And I did say at the beginning I wasn't going to take them, but listening to concerns raised by the council, the councillors for the ward, I will show a little leniency here where people can come in, but I would ask, I don't want a floodgates of lots of people coming in, and I will allow Councillor Richardson, who has indicated, and Councillor Brown, and in the balance of fairness, I would have to allow anyone else with a different viewpoint to come in. So if you can keep it brief, councillors, because as I say, we have got guidelines here, but I understand there's a lot of high feelings around this. So I can't accept Councillor Howson because you're not a member of the committee, and I do apologise for that, but I will take Councillor Richardson and Councillor Brown, and if anybody has a different view, I will take them in, so please keep it brief.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it brief, Chair. Thank you for bringing me in again. It's just in response to those people. I think I'm saying that all the children there are going to be terrorists. On the contrary, I'm not just thinking about the residents in the area, but for those vulnerable children that are going to be there. And I just don't think that the wardens will be may not be able to control the situation. The wardens before couldn't control, and there was less children there. Who is to say they're going to be able to control it more now, with be more children there? And as I say, it's because of the vulnerability of those children that I'm also concerned about. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Brown.
Thanks for allowing me the second go, Chair. I too just wanted to make it clear that my decision to support Carl had nothing to do with the children in it. I'd also like to make it clear that I do support what Shane and what Brenda have said. It is new people. They have answered all the questions correctly. I just, there's an anomaly here that on our information, they're saying there is no reported cases, and yet it would appear that when councillors in that ward have spoke to residents, there is reported cases, and I just think it's shocking that we have this situation. That's the only concern I have. I don't have concern with the new people or the children. I just have concern with the system that's happening here. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. If there's no one further, any of the officers want to sum up before we move on? We've obviously had a view that there will be members not supporting this, and that's been done on the grounds of antisocial behaviour. Anyone want to comment, or can we progress to the vote? I've got no indication, so I'm going to move. Oh, yeah. Councillor James.
Hopefully this will be helpful to you, Chair. I want to move the recommendation.
Okay. We'll move to the recommendation. So the recommendation is to approve, and we'll now do, I presume we do a roll call, yes? Is that right, of the vote?
Yeah,
okay.
That's correct, Chair. Okay, so this is to approve the application for 5 Grange Road. So I'll just go down the names. So Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher, would you like to vote for, against or abstain?
I'll vote for the application.
Councillor James Brewer.
For.
Councillor Paddy Brown.
Thank you. In view of the fact that we
don't just make a vote, yes or no.
In view of the fact that we don't seem to have all the facts here, I wish to abstain. Sorry, Chair, but I don't think there's anything wrong with me explaining why I'm abstaining.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bob Buchan.
For.
Councillor Shane Moore.
For.
Councillor Marjorie James.
For.
Councillor Jim Lindridge.
For.
Councillor Brenda Loynes.
For.
Councillor Carl Richardson.
Against, and can I have my name recorded, please?
Yeah. Councillor Cameron Stokel.
For.
And that's everybody.
Okay.
That application's approved, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And if we can now get the chairman back into the meeting so he can take over the rest of the meeting, please.
Absolutely. We'll just do that now.
I've texted the chair.
Okay, thanks to Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher for chairing that item. It went on for quite a length of time, so there's obviously lots to discuss on that item, but we'll move on to item 2, which is 9A Park Road, and I think it's Jane that's taking this application, this report.
It's myself, Chair, sorry, Dan.
Oh, sorry, Dan, my mistake.
No, okay, thank you, Chair. This item is page 12 of your handout, members, and the site relates to Unit 9A, Parkview Road West. Planning permission is sought for a change of use of the unit from its last known use as a tyre fitting business. It's proposed to change it to a gym. The proposal includes the provision of a pedestrian access gate to provide pedestrian access to the front access door in the north elevation. This is indicated on the plans before members on the screen here. So you've got Parkview Road West to the north. There's an existing security gate here, and the proposal is to install a gated access which would allow access to the front of the building. There'll also be access from this existing access door in the north elevation of the building. The proposed development has been amended since first being submitted with the exclusion of cafe facilities. The proposal is set out in full within the report. The application has been referred to Planning Committee as more than 2 objections have been received in line with the Council scheme of delegation. Relevant planning history and the site context are also set out in the committee report. In terms of photos of the site, this is a view towards the front, the north elevation, of the building, and the existing car park, which is a quadrangle that serves other businesses within it. This is a view to the north elevation of the building in question, a view to the east elevation, and a view down to the southern boundary. And again, it's at this point where the access gate would be proposed to be installed. And again, a view from the front here. The application has been advertised in the usual manner, and to date, 3 letters of objection have been received, including more than 1 objection from the same person. Concerns raised by objectors include the impact on highway and pedestrian safety through an increase in traffic and lack of car parking, the hours of operation, and amongst other matters, these are summarised in the committee report. As noted in the report, the period for publicity did not expire until the 6th of October. As an update to members, and since the committee report was published, a further 13 letters of support have been received, none of which raise any additional matters that have not already been summarised in the report. Furthermore, 1 letter of objection has been received from an adjacent existing business. It's understood that this has been circulated to members prior to this meeting. The objection primarily raises concerns about the provision of a gated access in the existing security fencing, and that this could increase footfall of unauthorised people into the quadrangle area, resulting in an increase in crime. Further concerns are raised about the impact on car parking and highway safety. Whilst these concerns are fully acknowledged, it is considered that the additional objections do not raise any additional material matters to those that have been fully considered and addressed within the main body of the report, in particular at paragraphs 2.32 and 2.36 respectively. In terms of consultations, no objections have been received from technical consultees as detailed within the report. Turning to the main planning considerations that are identified in the report, the principle of development is considered to be acceptable for the reasons set out in the report. Furthermore, the application is also considered to be acceptable with respect to all other relevant material planning considerations as set out in the report and subject to planning conditions where appropriate. With respect to any residual matters, these are being considered and addressed in the report. For the reasons set out in the committee report and subject to the identified planning conditions, it's considered that the application is acceptable and is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dan, for that. Are there any questions from members for the officer? No questions. We have the applicant with us today, Mr. Ashley McPhee. You've got 4 minutes, sir, with which to put your case across in favour of your application.
Yes, hello. I've just got a brief notes just to read from, just to keep it nice and simple for everybody. Just a little bit of background, first of all. I've had a significant amount of experience within this particular sector and worked within this particular role for a number of years. I'm aware of the need of the services within Hartlepool, having managed a successful gym locally in the past. Currently, some of our potential members will be travelling also from outside of the area for the type of gym we are proposing. As since I left my previous employment and employer, we feel that my style of coaching as well isn't catered for locally. When the lockdown actually began as well, it was a very, very worrying time for myself and my family. It progressed and it became very apparent that my job was at risk. As a result, we took the decision to be in control of our own destiny, really, and move towards setting up our own business, which resulted in me leaving my previous employer. I'm a local individual within the North East, with friends and family as well within the Hartlepool area. And opening a gym in Hartlepool has been a key objective and something that we, especially myself, has always wanted. Given this is a new business as well, I'm new to the entire process. And without the support of the Hartlepool Council has given me, I would have found this process very, very daunting and difficult. It may perhaps be perceived that this is not the best time to open a gym given the pandemic, but towards a perfect opportunity. There is not only a demand for this, but it is now more important than ever before that health and well-being is supported and encouraged. Furthermore, because I gave up my previous job to this, I carefully planned what was and is needed to be done to make it successful. Throughout my business planning process, I've worked with all departments within the council to plan and start the business, from whom I've had great support, reinforcing why I'm passionate about opening this facility for the people of Hartlepool. The provision of an additional fitness centre to the local area will help the local population improve their health, which is something that is crucial under the current circumstances of a pandemic and more so post-pandemic. We will also be creating employment opportunities for local people and will have a hugely positive impact to the area. we have taken on board all of the objections, every single one of them, and subsequent recommendations from various council departments. We took a logical and active approach to the concerns raised, and we hope you agree that we have addressed these thoroughly. We're going in terms of the objections. We're looking to be creating, as you know from the report, an additional access point in the Palisade, which gives members direct access to the gym. They will therefore not need to park in the compounds or walk across it or even through it entirely. There will not be a high presence of vehicles because there will be a limited number of participants due to limited class sizes. They will be parked also away from the compound, and not all will have car as transportation. Being a gym, by nature of our membership, a significant number of members will either cycle, they will walk, or they will lift share, as well as using their own vehicles. And we'll be taking absolutely full and active responsibility for the entire security, and will ensure that everything is locked when I leave the compound. Just want to say,
left.
Just want to say thank you very much for your time, and I hope I've alleviated any concerns that anybody may have had. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashley. So are there any questions for the applicant? No ward members to talk on this particular item. Oh, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that, Ashley. I mean, I'll be honest, I've had a very similar issue within my own patch with a gym that's operating, and there became a direct confrontation between existing business users and residents who live nearby, and it all centred around the parking. And that was one of my concerns with this application. But listening to you there, you sound pragmatic enough. You sound like you want to work with the existing business users, and that's, whilst it's not really a question for you today, it's just a request that you keep that pragmatism up, and that you do, if this application is passed today, you do work with the local business owners that are already there, and you do keep on top of it, because otherwise it can become a big issue for you and for everybody else.
Yes, absolutely. We'll do everything we can to work with every single business within that compound and work successfully with them.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions, Ashley. First of all, I would like to say it is always good to see new businesses open up within our town. I'm very much, as everybody here will know, in favour of new business in Hartlepool. I guess two of the major criticisms from objectors seem to be car parking and security. Mm-hmm. Do you have any information, Ashley? So roughly, how many car parking spaces you have? You mentioned that they wouldn't all be parking there, but some additional parking elsewhere. Just, I suppose, how many car parking spaces you have versus how many customers you expect. I realise you can't answer that clinically because you don't know how many customers you're going to get, but it just what the plan would be.
Yes, so thank you very much, Councillor. In terms of that, the compound doesn't have any specific or designated car park spaces per unit, because we had a discussion with Jane in regard to this, and also the current landlord, Richard. And obviously we answered that query. In terms of that, we would be looking no more between roughly 3 to 4 cars in front of that facility, if that. Obviously, one of those cars will obviously be staff, which will be mine. And the other cars will not be within that compound. They will be parked to the side where there is specific and designated bays, and ample bays at that, to which not only the members and visitors can park safely, but also then appropriately walk safely around the area at the back of the building, using those adjacent entry points to safely avoid any form of health and safety, and to ensure that they enter the facility safe, and also that their cars are safe within designated spots.
Okay. Thanks very much for providing that and making that clear, Ashley. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Richardson. Carl Richardson.
Yeah, yes. Thank you. Just as regards page 13, waste management. I don't know if you answered this question, but they were talking about having a trade waste agreement with the council. Are you okay with that?
What we've done, Councillor, is we've spoken with two providers, Biffa and Viola, and we've actually entered a conversation in preparation with a contract with Viola, which they also supply one of the businesses on there, the Windows business, and we'll be discussing with them and getting a contract set up so they can dispose of our particular waste disposal.
Okay. The other question.
I'm not sure I'm massively comfortable with commercial questions being asked as part of the plan.
No, just on the document. On page 14, just as regards the fire brigade and the installation of a automatic fire suppression system. What were your comments on that?
Yes, we'll be taking every single approach in terms of installing an appropriate system to ensure that the facility members, staff are safe 100% of the time, and also obviously naturally when the gym is closed too.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the applicant? Okay, no more councillors. We'll move into general debate. Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher. You're still on mute, Councillor Akers-Belcher.
There we go. I'd just like to say I support the application. Of course, CrossFit is an international brand, and it's something which is exciting for the town. And it's good to hear the enthusiasm from the applicant. I think the points which have been raised in terms of the objections, from my point of view, the applicant has went far enough to deal with those, and I think the actions in place are more than reasonable. So therefore, I will be supporting the application.
Okay, any further general debate? Okay, the application has been recommended by officers for approval, so it's for approval, against approval, or abstention from that approval, and we'll go to the vote, please, Jo.
Thank you very much, Chair. As previously, if members could indicate if they are for, against, or would wish to abstain. Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher.
For.
Councillor James Brewer.
For.
Councillor Paddy Brown.
For.
Councillor Bob Buchan.
For.
Councillor Shane Moore.
For.
Councillor Marjorie James.
For.
Councillor Jim Lindridge.
For.
Councillor Brenda Loynes.
For.
Councillor Carl Richardson.
For.
Councillor Cameron Stokel.
For.
And Councillor Mike Young.
For. That's a unanimous approval for the application. Congratulations and good luck with your business. No problem. Item number 3, plot 25, Haswell Avenue, and I've got Laura down for this on my list, so hopefully that's correct. So Laura's the officer that's going to bring that report.
Yes, that's correct, Chair. Okay, thank you, Chair. The item is page 23 of your handout. The site relates to plot 25 of Haswell Avenue allotments. Both the relevant planning history and site context for the application site are set out within the committee report, and the site location is shown on page 23. Planning permission is sought to install a wind turbine on a 5-metre high pole. The overall height to the tip of the turbine would be approximately 5.6 metres. The location of the proposed turbine and plans of its appearance are shown on pages 24 and 25. We can see photographs of the site when viewed from the A689 and Haswell Avenue on pages 26 and 27. The application has been referred to Planning Committee at the request of a local ward councillor in accordance with the council's scheme of delegation. The application was advertised in the usual way, and there have been 2 responses of no objection, 2 responses in support, and 6 objections as detailed in the report. Responses from technical consultees are also detailed within the report, but in summary there are no objections. The main planning considerations are identified within the report. In principle, local and national planning policies support renewable energy proposals and encourage local authorities to recognise their value, even when small scale. Concerns have been raised by objectors regarding the appearance of the turbine. However, it's not considered to be of a scale or design that would be detrimental. It'd be broadly similar in scale to the houses and light columns in the area. Given the distance from residential properties, it's not considered the turbine would have an overbearing appearance. Concerns have also been raised in relation to the potential for noise nuisance. However, the applicant has submitted a noise assessment and HBC Public Protection have confirmed this is satisfactory and raised no objections to the application. It is therefore considered that development is in accordance with relevant local and national planning policy, and therefore the application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Laura. Could I ask members to turn their microphones off if they're not speaking, please, as if there's a bit of background noise coming through. So just give yourselves a double check on that, just to make sure that you're silenced there. Any questions for the officer? None. The applicant is Steve Wilkinson, who I believe works for the council. You've got 4 minutes with which to put your case across, please, Steve.
Good morning, Chair, councillors, officers, ladies and gentlemen. As Chairman, I represent the Haswell Avenue Allotment Association. We've been going 13 years and we have a drive to improve the site and environmental facilities for visiting school children. We've done this with improvements to 2 communal plots, which includes plot 25, where we have 6 raised beds for growing flowers and veg. We have a pond with dipping platform and a timber shed used by children for examining the results of the pond dipping. Over the last few years, we've welcomed visits from St Cuthbert's, St Adrian's and Westview primary schools who visit over the summer for 1 afternoon a week. Growing flowers and veg and identifying pond life, as well as developing horticultural and ecology skills, assists with the key Stage 2 science curriculum. Hopefully, we can also introduce wind energy to the children, showing the importance of sustainability and highlight how having a renewable energy source, however small, provides a contribution to the reduction in CO2 and reduces our environmental impact. We've been grateful for the past support on occasions from the Ward Council's budget for helping creating these features and ask for your support once again. This proposal for a wind turbine is being funded by a police grant and has been developed since 2017 following meetings with the Council's Neighbourhood Safety Team Leader and the local police community support officer. I know mention of the words wind turbine can be quite emotive for some, and people may think it's as big as the ones at Hart. However, this one is on a micro scale of the type that illuminates road traffic signs. To alleviate particular concerns on size, as Laura mentioned, it's 5.6 metres, and that's lower than the smallest lampposts in Haswell Avenue, which are 6 metres. The turbine blades are 0.4 of a metre long or 16 inches, or about the same distance from there to there. In terms of power, it will provide enough power to supply 3 number 100-watt light bulbs, and that's enough for us to top up our solar power during the winter months when our batteries go flat. On noise, the turbine blades are designed to be very quiet using WISP power technology, as that's described by the supplier, and the result being it's as loud as normal conversation. Looking at its location and its keeping in with the local area, you might have some additional photographs which has been supplied, you might have in front of you. So as mentioned, the site's 70 to 75 metres away from residential housing, and it's partially screened by 2 rows of sheds and greenhouses from the Haswell Avenue side. On the northern boundary to the rear of St John's Grove, there's a 1.7 high brick wall provides partial screening. The boundary fencing and trees provide some screening on Brenda Road, and the turbine is also set below the height of the surrounding trees on Bellevue and Brenda Road, which are 7 metre high. Along these 3 roads, adjacent to the allotment site boundary, there are 25 other poles, which is in that document which you may have in front of you, and these cover the road lighting, telephone poles, and a CCTV camera on the roundabout, up to about 10 metres high. And I think this additional column would almost go unnoticed amongst them. We are a responsible allotment association, and we carry allotment insurance, which includes £2.5 million public liability insurance for any one event. This is a green initiative which will benefit the 31 plots on site in providing additional renewable energy while increasing security through improved lighting at the site as recommended by the Neighbourhood Safety Team. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And thank you, Laura, for your papers.
Chair, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So I was calling time all the way through there, so I was on mute. I apologise, Steve.
I'd be stopwatching. So
I was calling time to nobody. Apologies. My microphone's usually on all the way through, so my mistake. Apologies for that to everybody. Are there any questions for the applicant? None. No ward councillors. We'll go into general debate then, please. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I will be supporting this. I think it's a really great idea. It's a move forward for allotments, and I think there's learnings to be had from it all over the town. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, Chair, but correct me if I can't. But I would, if this does get passed, I would love an invitation to see it when it's all up and running.
As well within your rights if it's approved for you to go and have a look when it's installed. I'm sure that's okay. Okay, Councillor Lindridge.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I actually concur with what Councillor Brown said there. I think it's environmental friendly. You've got community engagement there. It's self-sufficient. It's innovative, and I would like to see other allotments follow suit. With the government's wind energy targets and all that to start off in the coming years. So I will be supporting this. I think it's a great idea.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. I have no problems with the outline of the application that's been provided, and I will be voting to support the application. However, I also want to give forward notice to yourself, Chair, that I have information to share with you and officers and other members, which I would suggest you take as if it's a pink item under any other business.
So pink, any other business? Okay, noted. Councillor Brenda Lyons.
Chair. I too will be supporting this application. I think it's an excellent idea. And again, like Councillor Brown said, I would love to be invited to have a look once it's up and running. I think when I first started reading it, I thought the report, I thought, oh my goodness, a blinking big, wind turbine. But when you get down to it, it's not that big. Yeah, I will be supporting it. I think it's an excellent idea. Thank you.
Councillor Stephen Akers-Boucher.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make the point that, yes, it is a very good scheme, and it's schemes like this we should be seeing on our sites and we should be supporting. And I think one lesson we need to learn today is to take the residents with us on these issues. And there's been a lot of hard work by the association and by the council and partners involved in this. But it's just a shame that there has been a number of people concerned about this. So therefore, I think lessons need to be learned in around communication of how we go forward. But I will be supporting.
Okay. If there's no further general debate, we'll go to the vote. The application has been recommended by officers for approval. So that's for approval, against approval, or abstention from that approval. And we'll go to the roll call, please, Jo.
Thank you very much, Chair. As previously, if members could indicate if they are for, against, or wish to abstain. Councillor Stephen Akers-Boucher.
For.
Councillor James Brewer.
For.
Councillor Paddy Brown.
For.
Councillor Bob Buchan.
For.
Councillor Shane Moore.
For.
Councillor Marjorie James.
For.
Councillor Jim Lindridge.
For.
Councillor Brenda Lyons.
For.
Councillor Carl Richardson.
For.
Councillor Cameron Stokel.
For.
And Councillor Mike Young.
For. That's unanimous. Well done, Steve. Good luck with the project. Moving on to item. No problem. St Francis Field. I believe it's Dan bringing the report for this.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that.
So, sorry, before you say, Councillor Lindridge, could you just put your microphone on mute for me, please?
Apologies, Chair.
No probs.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This item starts at page 29 of the PowerPoint and that of members' handout. The site relates to St Francis Playing Fields on Rossmere Way. Advertisement consent is sought for the installation of a total of 136 advertisement boards around the 11-a-side pitch in the playing fields. The proposal is set out in full within the committee report. In terms of the slides before members, the layout of the site in relation to neighbouring properties and land users is shown before members. The next plan shows the proposed arrangement of the advertisement boards. They would in effect surround the individual pitch with a gap in the centre and at each corner point, as indicated here and here and here. Plan 3 before members shows a visual indication of the boards. And as we move on to photos of the site, this is a view looking north towards Rossmere Way across the 11-a-side pitch in question. This is a view looking south towards St Teresa's School and east towards Balmoral Road from the pitch. Again, this is a view looking south from the front to the front of the St Francis Playing Fields, stood from Rossmere Way. The application has been brought before Planning Committee as more than 2 objections have been received in line with the Council's scheme of delegation. The relevant planning history is set out within the committee report. Since the publication of this report, the retrospective application referenced H/2020/0231 for the installation of block paving to the front of 3 porta cabins to the southwest area of the playing fields has been approved under delegated powers. In terms of publicity, the application has been advertised by way of 45 neighbour letters and 2 site notices. To date, there have been 40 objections and 1 letter of support. The objections are summarised in paragraph 4.9 of the committee report. Since the publication of the report, an additional representation has been received from a local ward councillor. This representation requests that the application is deferred to allow for additional consideration and a response from an outside agency. The representation has been circulated to members prior to today's meeting. In terms of consultations, no objections have been received from technical consultees as detailed within the committee report. Turning to the main planning considerations that are identified in the report, it is of note that in considering applications for advertisement consent, the only material planning considerations that can be taken into consideration are amenity and highway matters. With respect to these relevant planning considerations, including the impact on visual and neighbour amenity and the impact on highway and pedestrian safety, the proposals are considered to be acceptable for the reasons set out in the report, subject to appropriate planning conditions. As such, and for the reasons set out in the report, the proposal is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for the officer? We have got Mr. Trevor Robinson, who's the applicant. Oh, sorry, Councillor Lindridge. Councillor Lindridge.
Just for clarity to the officer.
Yeah.
I do believe there was an online petition put forward, you know, whether it be Facebook or whatever. And can you just clarify whether that petition appeared to indicate the boards would have been placed on the outside perimeter of the fence, and therefore that could be a little bit misleading because the actual the boardings would be surrounding the pitch at ground level. Could you confirm, have you read it that way or have I misread that?
Is that towards me?
No, it's to the officer. It's to the officer.
So additional representation received from a local ward councillor, and you know those matters wouldn't change the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just come back on that just for clarity there, just to make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you actually saying then if there's been an online sort of petition against that because the boards were on the outside, then residents could actually think that the boards were on the outside and are voting against that?
Sorry, Councillor Lindridge. I think we first got to clarify the point of has a petition been submitted to the council, and that's probably the first question, because I've heard twice now.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
You've asked twice about a petition, and I'm not getting any feedback as to whether there's been a petition submitted to the council, because I certainly haven't seen one.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, that's fair enough.
To that effect, Chair, I'd have to sort of check with Jim or Stephanie. Jim, are you able? Jim Ferguson.
I haven't had sight of any petition. Stephanie will confirm what we have received that are reflected in the report. Obviously, until the petition is submitted, it remains online in the ether.
Yeah.
So what it says and whether that accurately reflects the proposal, I don't think we could comment, but Steph may be able to clarify the situation.
We're potentially now about to go into some general debate, because I was going to make a comment there, but I'll hold that for general debate. Councillor Lindridge, can I suggest we pick this back up in general debate, because I think it is a key point, and I think we need to discuss it further. Is that okay with you?
That's fair enough. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks a lot. Okay. Any further questions for the officer, Councillor James? Oh, Councillor Loynes, did you have your hand up and it's disappeared?
I did, but it was similar to Councillor Lindridge about the boards being on the outside or the inside of the fence. Okay,
Lovely.
thank you.
Thank you. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. I'm asking this question under officers section because I'm not aware that whether they're going to be able to answer it or whether they'll need time to think about it. I want to ask, obviously, if advertising boards are going to be utilised anywhere, the purpose is for them to be either self-financing or profit-making, right? That's otherwise, why would you be advertising anything? So I am concerned that, and asking the question really, can we put together restrictions on what can be advertised? Because I certainly wouldn't support if the boards were going to advertise high sugar content or money lenders or things like that. So I would want to know exactly what's being put on those boards and for what purpose.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor.
Dan, you've gone on to mute for some reason.
He's struggling to answer the question.
We can't control what goes on the advertisement boards in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Maybe it's again a point to bring back up in general debate, Councillor James. We'll have another go at that. Okay, so the applicant is Mr. Trevor Robinson. You've got 4 minutes with which to put your case across, and you're free to start now.
Morning, councillors, members and the general public. First of all, thanks for this opportunity to speak with you. I would like to start off with giving a general purpose of who we are really. St Francis Football Club is a voluntary community sector that provides football for over 250 young people from volunteers. The purpose of what we're looking to do within the planning is to put a border around our 11-a-side pitch that is within the fenced off area. The sponsorship of advertising would go in over. What that would look to do is help the club be more sustainable, provide a greater view for a professional outfit in terms of football for the children. So when they arrive, other teams arrive, it looks like a professional outfit. It will be obviously tidy, maintained. I will get into obviously the question later on around the advertisement. This, in my opinion, obviously, this is very new to us putting planning in as being volunteers. We perhaps should have, prior to the application, had a residents meeting and proposed this to the residents. However, we didn't do so, and it is my belief that there was a misconception of the actual information put towards the residents, which gave a mass objection of the same sort of draft, which was misleading information given to them. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any questions for the applicant? No. Okay, I believe we have Councillor Tony Richardson who wants to speak as a ward councillor on this. Are you there? Oh, sorry, Councillor Lindridge.
Thanks, Chair. Could I ask Tony, in terms of how many children and adults actually use the facility at the moment?
Is it Trevor you're addressing that question?
Trevor, yeah, Trevor.
We have 14 teams, so we have 14 teams of young people in terms of members. which consists of over 250 young people. Alongside that, you have the parents, grandparents, family members who get involved in the club and attend the club, and it provides a real family community aspect towards all of them.
That's good. Have you had any littering issues or anything, and if so, how have you dealt with them?
When we first took over the club, yes, which was myself and Peter O'Neill as the chairman, we took over the club 4 years ago. There was littering issues. We do litter picks. We've got our own refuge bins on there that we pay for. And after each game, we litter pick and get the young people to do it alongside us, which gives them a great sense of belonging, community, and looking after their own area.
Yeah, I actually walk up there quite regular. Can you just confirm if you've got lots of volunteers there? Do they keep an eye out for any antisocial behaviour issues that's going on?
Constantly. We're very big on working with the community. That the main reason for the football club isn't just about football, it's a sense of belonging and being part of a community. So being part of a community is to look after your community, the residents and the people around, and really promote that, as does all of our coaches, volunteers and everybody attached to the club.
And finally, Chair, just if there might be complaints about vandalism of the boards, which that sometimes you can't stop that. I presume that you would make sure that if the boards are vandalised, that you make them good and they don't make the area look unsightly if they do get graffiti and things on them. Yeah.
The appearance to the club is high priority to us. We've got visiting teams, fans, and also we want the residents to actually see the club and take pride in the club and how it looks. So if there was anything whatsoever, we would make sure that was addressed straight away.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Tony.
Trevor.
Trevor, sorry. I've got your name written down.
I mean, make the mistake once, that's all right, but
oh, well, I'm just testing it.
Can I just confirm as well, though, we seem to see a fairly big fence. Is that fence around your part of the usage of that field? Is that correct? That large fence?
Yes, it's already enclosed off and locked up and have gate access.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Buchan.
Morning, Trevor. Thank you, Chair. Without this being passed, do you think financial problems might arise for the club?
Certainly at this time, yes. We obviously, along with everybody else, we've had the current pandemic, and that's really took a hold on the club. We've had a period of time where we've had no membership, funding avenues dry up, and really we could do with some investment somewhere. That was one of the big reasons we promoted having this boarding area where we can get the support from local businesses, really.
Thank you, Trevor.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for the applicant? There's nobody here objecting from the public. We do have Councillor Tony Richardson. Are you wanting to speak, Councillor Richardson? Tony Richardson? I'll take that as a no. Okay, general debate. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I will be supporting this application. I think what these people do is tremendous within the community. I think there is a great need for it. I think it probably puts lots of young people on the straight and narrow that otherwise might have time on their hands to do wrong things. So I'm fully behind it, and I hope every other member here is as well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher.
Similar to the declaration of interest, I didn't realise the connection, but I am aware of the work Trevor does. I have had dealings in the past with the voluntary and community sector, and I do know Trevor on that level, and I'd like to make that clear today. But I don't think that clouds my judgment in this voting. the site's come a long way. I remember when the Civic Centre had what seemed like hundreds of people coming along objecting to this proposal initially, probably about 14, 15 years ago. When they wanted to develop the site, and since then I feel it has gone a long way in developing, and this adds professionalism to it. I am sorry that residents are maybe not happy fully with this, and I think the applicants already had made point about this, and I just think I know that they will go forward and they will work with the community around this. I think it's the right thing to do today to support this, but I think valid points have been made. I do know the football group to be very community based, and I would be disappointed if I saw irresponsible money lenders or adverts what weren't in that ethos, and I would make that plea today that I am going to support this application, but I would be very disappointed in the future if we did see a move away from that ethos. As I say, there needs to be a way. I'm sure the community will come round to this as they did 14, 15 years ago when this initial fencing went up, and there'll be people who remember that meeting at the time. So I think we've got to trust the football club and the work that they do in the voluntary and community sector to start building bridges with that community. And I think it's vital to the survival that we vote for this today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marjorie James.
Well, I want to echo really what Stephen sort of said. My only concern with this application is the advertising that may be promoted within it, because I would find it very difficult to give support in a deprived community. That part of Rossmere is still a deprived community, to see things like, you know, local burger providers, alcohol, things like that being promoted, because they are not in the best interests of our young people. Money lenders in that community would not be in the best interests of the community. So I was hoping that maybe the proposer would have answered the question, which is why I got it in early, but he didn't do so. But I've seen him indicating that that's not the intention. So I will be supporting the application, but I would also be watching it very closely.
Okay, thank you, Councillor James. No further general debate then, as there's no hands up. We shall move.
Sorry, Chair.
No, there's no hand there, Councillor Lindridge.
I've pressed it twice.
That's probably the problem. You only meant to press it once.
Keep me right. Right, am I okay to speak?
Of course.
Thanks. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll just echo the feelings there and the responses by Councillor Akers-Belch and Councillor James. It's really important, I think, for the health and well-being of the community to reduce obesity, keep fitness levels at a good level. You're engaging with the community, because I'm sure these young lads that come to play football and the parents, they're travelling from different parts of the town. It's not just the Rossmere area, and I think everybody benefits from that. So what I was concerned, which is I raised earlier, I think I've only had, I've had no objections in relation to calls about this proposal. I've had one inquiry, and that one inquiry led me to say what I said earlier, that the gentleman or lady that spoke to me said they were concerned that the boards were going on the outside perimeter and they're probably likely to be a metre high. And then following that information, or following that discussion, I did notice that there was information going on Facebook, which led me to believe that residents could have been misled by thinking the boards were going on the outside. So I would be disappointed to see this application go down on the basis of some misinformation, alleged misinformation. So I'm really going to support this. It's good for the community. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lindridge. Councillor Brenda Lyons.
Thank you, Chair. I too am going to support this application. I think it's a brilliant idea, and if it helps the club keep into business, that's great for the young children. At first, when I was first reading it, I thought, oh, it looks like they're on the outside, but now it's been confirmed the boards are on the inside, and they're not going to be too obstructive for people's views. They're not that high, I believe under 3 foot. So I will be supporting the application, and good luck to you. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much. Okay, so unless there's any further general debate, pausing for Councillor Lindridge, we'll move to the vote. The vote is based on the officer's recommendation for approval. So it's for approval, against approval, or abstention from approval. And I'll pass to Joe to go through the roll call, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher. Councillor James Brewer. Councillor Paddy Brown.
Oh, sorry, Joe. I didn't catch. I think Councillor Akers-Belcher was on mute, so we didn't catch his vote there. Was it
for?
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Bob Buchan.
For.
Councillor Shane Moore.
For.
Councillor Marjorie James.
For.
Councillor Jim Lindridge.
For.
Councillor Brenda Loynes.
For.
Councillor Carl Richardson.
For.
Councillor Cameron Stokel.
For.
Councillor Mike Young.
For. That's a unanimous approval for that application. Fantastic work you do up at St Francis, and I wish you all the very best for the future. And we'll hope it goes extremely well for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Item number 5 is 70 to 71 the front, Seaton Carew, and I believe it's Dan again for this report.
Thank you, Chair. The item starts at page 36 of the PowerPoint and that of your handout, members. The site relates to Seaton Rock and Gift Shop at 70 to 71 the front in Seaton Carew. Planning permission is sought for alterations to the shop front to include the replacement of the bay window to the front of number 71 with a larger bay window and the installation of box housing with canopies to the front of both 70 and 71. The proposal is set out in full within the committee report. In terms of the site context, the layout of the site in relation to neighbouring properties and other land users is shown on page 36 of the PowerPoint here. Existing elevations of the current shop frontage are shown on the PowerPoint slide before, members. This shows the proposed elevations, and in effect, it primarily relates to this bay window here, which would be enlarged, and the central windows would open out and would be pinned back, which will be demonstrated on one of the illustrative images that have been provided. This is the existing floor plans, which show the existing frontage with the fixed bay window. And this is the proposal, which say the bay window would be widened and these central panes would open out here. A canopy would also be proposed to the front of this unit here. And whilst the stanchions in place to the front of the existing unit here, this would also be replaced in terms of the new canopy. This is a photo montage of the proposals. Basically, here we show the central widened bay with an opening window. As I say, the windows would butterfly out and pin back onto these adjacent panels. And here we'd have box housing across the front of both units, albeit they would be separate following submission of amendments. In terms of existing photos, this is the existing situation as we speak. Again, views down towards the building. And again, a photo of the existing bay window in question, which would be widened. The application is being called in to be determined at the planning committee by a councillor in line with the council scheme of delegation. The relevant planning history is set out within the committee report. This includes a previously refused application for a similar application, which sought to remove the bay window to the front of 71, replacing it with a flat window and the installation of a shop front. The council's decision to refuse the application was upheld at appeal. The application has been advertised in the usual way as set out in the report, and to date there have been no responses. Responses from technical consultees are detailed in full within the committee report. These include an objection from the council's Heritage and Countryside manager with respect to the primarily with respect to the proposed replacement of the bay window with a larger bay window, which would result in less than substantial harm to the Seaton Carew Conservation Area, which is a designated heritage asset. The council's Heritage and Countryside manager's comments are detailed in full within the report. Turning to the main planning considerations identified in the report, It's considered that the traditional style and design of the original bay window to the front of number 71 of the building contributes to the character and significance of the conservation area by reflecting its characteristics and replacing it. By replacing it with a larger window, which would open out, it would cause harm to the character of the building and that of the conservation area. Although it is acknowledged that minor alterations have been made to the proposal since the last application was refused, these are not considered to be sufficient to address the harm identified to the character and appearance of the existing building or that of the conservation area. Furthermore, the applicant has not provided sufficient detail of public benefits that would outweigh the identified harm. The proposal is considered to be acceptable in respect of other material planning considerations. In summary, for the reasons set out in the report, it's considered that the proposal is not acceptable and is therefore recommend that the application be refused. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. Questions for the officer from members? Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher.
Thank you, Chair. I just want, if we can get the photograph back up, I just want to ask a question around that, please. There's already an existing, further down the street, an existing opening. I don't know if it's a yellow sign where the yellow window is, and there seems to be an opening of there. What is the difference between the proposal here to actually an existing opening which occurs? And I've got another question as well.
Okay, Dan, do you want to answer that first one?
If it's okay and Sarah's available, Chair, it may be better for Sarah to articulate that particular point, if that's possible.
I think it's good because the context of all of those shops is very useful in this determination, I would suggest. Yes, Sarah?
I think the opening that's further down the street actually took part prior to that section of the conservation area being delegated. And with regard to applications going forward, we wouldn't necessarily revert back to inappropriate alterations that have been made in the past, which don't contribute to the significance and the character of the conservation area. We would look to retain the character of the area where we can, and then, if at all possible, enhance it. So therefore, in this instance, we would be looking to retain as many of the original details or traditional styling and detailing on properties, and looking where we can to enhance those.
Okay. So there is an acknowledgement that there is a planning history here of approval previously of these kind of schemes.
I think certainly to the best of my knowledge, that part of the conservation area was only designated in the early 2000s. And at that time, all of those alterations on that sort of group of properties had already been made to them. Sort of moving forward from that, there were some enhancements made to the conservation area quite early on after that designation with English Heritage, or Historic England as they are now, grant, which did restore some traditional details back to property. So if you think of the I'm not sure if it's still called it, but the Hudson's shop, the cards shop, I don't know if it's still that down there, but certainly I know that within that side received grant to restore traditional bay windows back to the building, and certainly sliding sashes throughout the property as well. So I think when we when that conservation area was designated, or certainly that extension was designated, there was an acknowledgement that there was a real opportunity there for enhancement and to restore some traditional details to those properties where they'd been lost.
Okay, and the other question I wanted to ask was the term less than substantial harm has been used within the report. Yet there's a recommendation for refusal. Could you explain why, if there's a less than substantial harm, why the conclusion's been reached, please?
There are two levels of harm with regards to heritage assets. One is substantial harm and one is less than substantial harm. Substantial harm is the highest possible, I guess, harm that we would describe to a heritage asset, and that would generally only be considered to be the demolition of a building or very extensive works to a listed building or a very large area of a conservation area.
beneath that, less than substantial harm is used, and that is characterised by harm to the alteration of a listed building, or indeed alterations to properties within conservation areas, which contribute to that significance of a conservation area.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I think my question nicely slots in on the back of Stephen's last question there. I can't make out from the drawings what it's going to look like as opposed to what it looks like now. So, for example, I know it's going to be wider, but other than the fact that it's going to be a bigger window, is it going to look aesthetically much different to how it looks now?
So you're right, the size of the window will be different. At the moment, the windows lift out of the frame of the bay, and they have the styling of that's reflective of a sash window. So the proposed window would be wider, and it would also be hinged on the pillars of the bay, so the windows would come outwards, and so the detailing on those the kind of the pillars on the bay would be different. Obviously, on that sort of that montage there, you can see the pillars of the bay are a lot narrower to those that you see on the traditional styling of the bay as it is now.
Okay. So the styling isn't really that different. It's just the narrowness of the windows.
I think the key thing is that certainly the windows are going to be larger. The pillars of the bay would be narrower because of the jointing. So on the outside, rather than see the traditional moulding detail that you see now on the pillars of the bay window, you would obviously see the hinge details for the windows for that mechanism to enable them to fold out.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Councillor Shane Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just confirm, when were the picture that's currently on screen, and oh yeah, that one, and then there was another one from kind of a bit further back. Can I ask when they were taken? Because the colouring of the building and everything else looks vastly different to that which is on Google Maps, which is dated June 19. The pink isn't quite as pronounced, let's say, in June 19. So I'm just trying to determine when those pictures were taken, that's all.
Look fairly recent to me.
Yeah, sorry, you're right, because the bollards are in place for the parking bays. Yeah, thank you. That's a more recent one. I just wanted to clarify that, Chair. Yeah. Thank you. And the other thing, the bay window itself, I think Sarah might have answered it just then, but did you say, Sarah, that the panes they currently lift out, and is that window actually used for a part of the business at the moment? I'm not completely familiar with it.
So as I understand it at the moment, the lower panes, so the lower sort of 6 windows that you can see there, those are lifted out. And they do use that as a serving hatch.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions for officers? Okay, we have Mr. Chris Sutton, who is the agent for the applicant, who's here to speak. Are you there, sir? Chris Sutton?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Just about.
Yes, apologies for that. Sorry, I was on mute.
It's very, very quiet. You've got 4 minutes with which to put your case across. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My client has a big presence in Front Street with 3 shop-fronted premises within a 90-yard proximity, and brings a large proportion of economy and tourism to the area, and is looking to expand its presence to a 4th business within the same proximity. Properties include the Gelato Jojo ice cream and coffee house with external takeaway, City Bills bar opposite, and across the road the Seaton Gift and Rock Shop with ice cream parlour, which the client has traded for over 19 years, employing 12 people, to which this application refers to. In a decade and a half,
I can't hear a thing
the bay window to enable the main window sections to be removed to serve ice cream. Of course, at this time, this was an operation of serving predominantly single flavoured ice cream cones. However, now the operation is for some 20 different selections of gelato-style flavoured ice cream produced on site by the client, for which this
Mr. Sutton, we're really struggling to hear what you're saying. It's very quiet. Is there an opportunity for you to move closer to the microphone or adjust your audio in some way? Because we're all struggling to hear what you're saying.
Chair, can I just make a point?
You can.
If members cannot hear clearly, then they cannot vote. It's as clear as that. So it's in the interests of the applicant to make sure that we can hear what he's saying.
Okay, I shall move closer to the screen. May I start again?
Yeah.
Could I just make a quick point that I feel is constructive, Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he first started, I couldn't hear him, but I've since turned the volume up on my PC. I don't know if anybody else has that facility, but once I turned the volume up, he was fine.
Yeah, mine's on 100 and I still couldn't hear, so...
I'm going to speak a bit closer. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better for me. Is everybody else okay? Any dissent?
All good.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Brilliant. My client has a big presence in Front Street with 3 shop-fronted premises within a 90-yard proximity and brings a large proportion of economy and tourism to the area, and is looking to expand its presence to a 4th business within the same proximity. Their properties include the Gelato Jojo ice cream and coffee house with external takeaway, Kitty Bill's bar opposite, and across the road the Seaton Gift and Rock Shop with ice cream parlour, which the client has traded for 19 years, employing 12 people, to which this application refers to. A decade and a half back, permission was agreed to adapt the bay window to enable the main window sections to be removed to serve ice cream. Of course, at this time, this was an operation of serving predominantly single flavoured ice cream cones. However, now the offering is for some 20 different selections of gelato-style flavoured ice cream produced on site by the client, for which this servery kiosk is no longer practical. This, married with the dangerous process of removing the windows on a public highway in often high winds daily, that requires at least 2 staff is impractical in these modern times. My client has negotiated with the council as to a practical solution to the ice cream service hatch for 4 years now. We have met with the conservation officer to resolve her concerns and have been unable to reach a solution. In this time, my client has suffered an extensive loss of business over this extended period. Many of the other properties along the front have been significantly altered in the past, and as such, the street has lost much of its traditional character. Unsympathetic additions and inappropriate designed alterations, particularly along the terrace of properties on which the shop sits, which distract significantly from and undermine the heritage significance of this part of the conservation area, and recognised as such in the council's visual assessment as incoherent appearance of the street environment. Our client has been through rigorous planning process with 2 other premises within the street and has adhered fully with the planning process and conditions. The proposal is sympathetic to the street scene, will negate the need for dangerous window removal, as the windows open back on themselves in a safe and attractive manner, and offers practical and sympathetic solution for a much needed replacement. That will be a necessity to enable this business to safely financially continue to employ its 12 staff. The concerns raised by the conservation officer were that the proposal caused less than significant harm to the conservation area. Paragraph 196 of the Government's National Planning Policy Framework advises that in cases where a development proposal would lead to less than substantial harm to the significance of the designated heritage asset, the harm should be weighed against the public benefits of the proposal, including, where appropriate, securing its optimal viable use. Furthermore, the local plan policy HE3 goes on to say, removal of heritage structures and features can be permitted where its structural condition is such that it's beyond reasonable economical repair, or removal is necessary to deliver a public benefit. While we appreciate the bay window is an original asset, it is in some state of dilapidation, furthered by 4 years of indecision and requires replacement. There is no doubt that at some point this bay will need to be replaced, and at that time will become mock by definition, and the asset will be lost regardless. In conclusion, we believe the benefits arising from the proposal in this case are significant, not just in terms of enhancing the appearance of what is now a very tired shop front and therefore the wider street scene, but also in terms of securing the revamp of an important local business that will inevitably result in improved sales, tourism and economic benefits. These factors combined undoubtedly outweigh the less than substantial harm that will be caused by the heritage asset in the Conservation Officer's view, and the National Planning Policy Framework therefore supports the scheme. With this in mind, we ask that this proposal be given due consideration by the committee. One last thing to state is that I know you haven't had a chance to go and visit the premises. The client, well, we do have a 30-second video showing the removal of the windows, but I can tell you that it's the entire window, not just the 6 panels, and it's very dangerous in high winds. Thank you.
Thanks very much. That's time. Questions for the applicant's agent, Councillor Akers-Belcher.
Thank you, Chair. I've got 3 questions to help with my decision making today. If Mr. Sutton could answer these for me. The first one, will the new proposal be sympathetic?
Yes, undoubtedly.
Okay. Second is, will this proposal put forward improve the health and safety and well-being of the staff owners who are currently lifting out this window?
Undoubtedly.
And in terms of viability, if this scheme is not adopted today, will that put a threat over the business and cause economic risk to the business?
Very much so.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. I'm still trying to get my head around what's going to happen to this bay window. Whilst I accept that the application says that it will be larger, and when Sarah spoke, she explained that the side panels would be on a hinge to come away and be locked onto the wall in some way so that they don't move around. But the central part of the bay, at the moment, the lower section is removable. What exactly is proposed for the central section? Because it will still be there as a centre of the bay window.
It won't. It's going to be 2 separate panes. If you look on what's on the screen now, Councillor James, there's 2. It becomes 2 panels.
So half of the central bay will move with the side as on a hinge. Is that what you're saying?
Right. They'll open out like this and then fall back onto the windows that are angled. So if you look at the other page,
right, okay.
where those menus are on the other picture, that's the windows, I think.
Right. Well, I thought that when Sarah was explaining that, I'd assumed it was the corner panels, the side panels,
No,
but it's actually the central bay will be split into 2, and will be hinged. Is that right?
Chris Sutton, can you confirm that, please?
Yes. So, sorry, yes is the answer to that question, but the existing window has 3 panels. So it has a central window, which is fully man-handled out and then taken indoors. And it has to obviously use 2 staff to do that. And then the 2 side flanking panels are already on hinges to open against the wall. Our proposal would negate this health and safety issue, and there would be no removable panels whatsoever. The 2 side flanking angled panels would stay in place, and the 2 middle panels would turn back on themselves to create a full opening. Obviously, we've gone to great extent so that when it is closed, it really does. I mean, Sarah mentioned about putting back bay windows within the conservation area, which essentially are mock. They're not original assets, and we're taking a problem here and putting something back in line with kind of heritage assets.
Okay, right. Well, I accept the explanation given, but that raises a second question for me. The premises that are under consideration are actually north facing virtually. So if the whole of that bay window was open, I'm not sure that that would be of benefit to the health and well-being of the staff.
Can I speak?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Well, it is currently fully open, that bay window, and has been for the last 16 years. So all 3 windows currently fully open during the total time of its opening. So, our proposal is open the same as it is currently.
Okay, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to the viability that the applicant mentioned there. So can you confirm, you're saying that operating from a single hatch when serving such a large variety of ice creams onto the public highway makes the business unviable from this location, is that right?
Yes.
And yet by your own admission, though, you said that the owner operates a successful ice cream business further along in this row from a single hatch, hatchway onto a public highway that's much narrower, and that work was carried out in consultation with the heritage officer and done in a sympathetic way.
Oh, sorry, are you referring to the Jojo's ice cream parlour along the road?
The one on the opposite end of the row, yeah.
Yes, well, I mean, that went through planning consultation some time back and was given, you know, a large kiosk takeaway, which was, you know, practical for that operation. But it's not necessarily the size of the window; it's the machinery that needs to be behind the window. You know, it's a if you have that kind of operation of ice cream, then you know, if you're putting it in that tiny bay window, you're kind of 4 feet back from the premises, you know, from the serving hatch. Whereas Jojo's obviously has a very long extension there, where the ice cream parlour is very close up to the window and is easily served through a single hatch window. So it's a very different operation.
I'm going to bring Dan in on this, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chair. It was just possibly to try and illustrate some of the queries. So in view of members here, obviously you've got the existing bay window. And as Sarah explained, you've got the moulding and the detailing around the existing bay window. And on the next image, you'll see that the change in terms of the mass of the expanse of the new bay window. The point I just wanted to sort of raise was in terms of each application its own merits. Obviously, we are mindful of recent appeal decisions. The bay window above Young's Fish and Chip Shop, which was refused, and the appeal was upheld. And then we've also recently had the application refused at Mateo's for the upper bay window. Now, as Sarah's emphasised, those alterations have taken place post the conservation area designation. But yeah, it was just to illustrate that it's the change in that expanse of that bay window as well. From that, as you can see, to that, which is significantly wider.
Okay. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify a quick point. We've had information, I think, from the officers saying that only half the windows come out, and we've had information from the client saying that all of the windows come out. Can we clarify just what it is, please?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Yeah, I assume you're referring to the existing operation, yeah? Yeah, so I can clarify that the main front window, which is, I guess, 12 panes in total, comes out as one whole item, one whole heavy frame, and is manhandled out onto the pavement and then taken indoors. And then the two side panels are on an existing hinge, which open against the wall. So all panels are removable to an extent, but it's the main front one that has caused such kind of concerns with staffing and you know, just practical health and safety.
Councillor Lyons.
Thank you, Chair. With respect to Dan, when you mentioned across the road and what have you, different things.
Apologies, members. Apologies, members. Councillor Akers-Belch is just having a problem with his sound at the moment.
Right.
I think in terms of that, is he going to make a decision that he can't vote on this, or is he wanting us to pause the proceedings?
I think he'd like us to pause the proceedings. Yes, he'd like us to pause, please.
Can we take a natural break then while we're waiting?
Yeah, we shall take a natural break. If people need to go and get a cup of tea or whatever, go ahead and do that now. 2 minutes, though. 2 minutes.
Yeah, we're back on, Chair.
Okay, thanks for everybody's patience regarding that pause in proceedings for a technical issue. We're okay to go back. I think Chris Sutton was just in the process of explaining or answering a question. Do you want to go back into that, please, Chris, so we can all hear what you were saying?
Sorry, was it the question Paddy Brown asked?
It was, yeah. Could you just do that again, just for the benefit of Councillor Regis-Belcher, so he doesn't miss any of the debate or the discussion?
Yeah, so it's just confirmed that it is the so the sash window isn't a movable sash. It's all one item. So the entire frame of 12 glazed panels and the frame is removed on a daily basis to the pavement and then taken indoors, requiring 2 staff. And then the 2 side flanking angled bays kind of open out on a hinge and are kind of positioned back to the wall. So yes, they are all removable as such. You know, the whole opening is open during operation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lyons.
Thank you, Chair. As I was saying, with respect to Dan, we're constantly being told not to look at past approvals or rejections, you know, about, you mentioned Young's Fish Shop over the road and what have you. That was just one point, but another point is when we're being sent these photographs, there's an artist impression on 41, and to be quite honest, it's not very clear. On mine, particularly, it's just like black blotches. I don't know whether if I lift it up, can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ones that you're showing on screen are much better, and I believe personally enhance the seating.
Okay.
You know. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Okay. So we've. Are there any more questions? Yeah, Dan, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I just apologise, Chair. Obviously, at pre-meeting, the matter was picked up about the lack of clarity on that particular image. So we obviously got a better colour image. So apologies to members, and something for us to note for future reference going out. So yeah, it was picked up at pre-meeting. Sorry about that, councillors. And just on your point about other applications, yeah, it is each on its own merits. However, we have a policy where the conservation areas are at risk. This is one of them, and at 32 the front, which is the bay window at Young's, and 8 the front, which was Mateo's. We've won very recent appeals following dismissed appeals following decisions by the council and members to refuse those applications. So it's not. I do reiterate, it is each on its own merits, but the conservation area is these small incremental changes that continue to put it at risk. Which where if we were seeking further funding or future funding, it's Historic England could turn around and say, it's at risk, and these are the matters that we're trying to address.
Can I raise a point of order?
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with the direction this is going into. I feel as though I've got a gun to my head, and I've always voted the way that I see fit. And whether we get money or we don't get money, I just think it's unacceptable, and I just feel that there's a bit of a squeeze on members, and I would ask that we move on.
We'll move progress. Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Regis-Belcher. We've got no objective from the general public. I believe we've got Councillor Sue Little as ward member for Seaton. Are you there, Sue?
I am there. I am here. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
I've got a video that's been sent to me, which I would like to play to members, which shows how the window gets put in and put out at start and end of each working day.
Right. The only issue that we've got there is, Councillor Little, that hasn't been submitted before the planning meeting. I had no idea that was going to be presented. Or
it was sent to me personally. It wasn't.
Does it show members of staff doing something?
How it comes in and comes out. This window is 6 foot tall, nearly.
Councillor Little, can I just call order a second, please? The point that I'm making is that video wasn't submitted prior.
Right, that's fair enough. I won't play it.
And the second point, excuse me. There's 2 parts to the question. The second part of the question, or the second point I want to make, is: are members of the public or members of staff in that video? And if there are, that you can't show it anyway.
It's the owner.
Yeah, well, you can't show it anyway.
Right,
so
okay, that's all right. That's all right.
Carry on. Okay.
Right.
Go.
That's. It's just with all the discussion about the window. Sorry, my phone goes to ring as I'm starting to talk. As there was a lot of discussion about the window. This window is 6 foot tall. It comes out of the mechanism of the window, and it goes in the side door on the pictures that you could see that Dan showed earlier. The 2 side panels go back on a brass hinge and they get fastened into. So if it's a windy day, this window can't be functional. We can't take it out because in the past it's been dropped or the wind's caught it, and members of the public can be injured as well. So for health and safety reasons, I would like this to be just for that alone. A few shops down this Almighty Cod has got an exactly the same setup that what's here now. The only difference is those doors open inwards, not outwards, where these ones will be. But you've got to imagine these doors are going to be fastened to the wall. They're not going to be like swinging. There'll be no visual difference to what is planned and what with the new plans. If they get passed today, the visual will look exactly the same. And this couple has made 2 successful businesses up, and they've worked with the heritage of the council department, where they know how important it is to keep the heritage of Seaton Carew going. All I urge today is, I would like for you to have a visual seeing of how you can do it. I don't know whether you can do that today, because this will look no different. And if you can see how the struggle is to take that window in and out every day, you would see why the people want to have like a door hatch on it. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. General debate. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. How pleased am I that I don't run a business on Seaton Carew seafront. I imagine they have to rely very heavily on a summer trading to sustain them. And as we all know, in Seaton Carew, that summer doesn't last very long. I think the changes are very slight. I do appreciate the importance for keeping that business alive, why they might need this. And you know, we've just spent a lot of money in recent years on Seaton Carew to enhance new businesses to come. And I think part of enhancing businesses to come is you've got to work with them businesses to allow them to trade profitable. With that in mind, I will not be supporting the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hicks-Belcher.
Thank you, Chair. I too will not be supporting the recommendation today. I believe the applicant has been more than reasonable in outlining, despite what the report says about not communicating the wider benefits to this. There is a wider benefit from my point of view, and I think that's been clear today. I must say I use Seaton Carew quite a lot. I walk my dog along there, I take my granddaughter, and I was absolutely horrified when I saw the process of the window being lifted out. It is a large window. I think a video doesn't need to demonstrate that, to be honest. And I think if the council are aware of that, and we are aware of that risk, that somebody or 2 people, 1 person are physically lifting a window, I think that in itself shows a reasonable, measured approach, that we've got an opportunity to stop an unsafe practice today by ensuring that there is a system put in place which can negate that. And I think, to be honest, that is a major factor for me, the health and safety. And I think it just makes sense to look at that today. The economic point is, I think it does cause value. As a council, we cannot be saying we're serious about regeneration and then on the other hand hampering small businesses. I've always been a supporter of the businesses in the town, and we need to continue to do that. I don't think it puts risk to the conservation area. at all in that place. I feel that that there has been an outline case about how this may affect the benefit of the business, and I must say, anybody who goes along there and knows the business, and I do because of my previous involvement in regeneration in the town, you know, these owners and the people who are driving Seaton, they're not doing things on the cheap. They've actually developed, and if you look at some of the businesses they have got, they have developed those businesses to a very high standard. And I think, to be honest, we've got to trust the work they've done. They've got a proven track record of delivering this. It's already said that there's a less than substantial harm to the conservation area. And if we do want to use examples of previous, I myself have voted in the past for mock windows on the headland as well, and so I think as long as it's done in an appropriate way, I will not be supporting the officer's recommendation, and for the sake of the business I will be supporting them. Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I've listened to all of the arguments for this application, and I do appreciate the applicant has tried to work with council officers on the application to bring something forward that this committee would find suitable. I don't accept that the business would be unviable if they had to serve from a single window hatch, as it has been proven that the business owner can and does operate a very similar business, providing over 20 varieties of ice cream from a single hatch onto a public footpath that is much narrower than that outside of this property. The argument that the existing window is cumbersome and potentially health and safety risk is a valid one. However, we're not judging the existing window here today. If an application was brought forward that made the practice safer and it was in keeping with the rules that are in place for a conservation area, then I don't think we'd have a problem. Planning applications in conservation areas can often be a nightmare and cause officers and ward members alike lots of problems. But what I'm concerned about here is that if a resident submits an application for a private dwelling in a conservation area, we follow these rules to the letter, whether we agree with them or not. What I'm seem to be hearing here today is that if you're a business owner and you put an application in, we'll be much more lenient and we'll let you get away with a bit more. And I don't particularly think that's fair.
Can I raise a point of order, please?
Councillor Akers-Belchy, I'll allow.
I think the statement what's being made by Shane Moore is somewhat misleading. We, as a planning committee, have expressed many views over a period of time, and I think it is completely wrong and untrue to put that out there that businesses have preferential treatment. I'm quite offended by that because I think it's wrong and I think it's misleading, and I would like it recording that I am aware of the health and safety risk in the minutes of the meeting by this window.
Yeah, okay. I think the points you raised were also that have been raised as part of the discussion today are about two properties that are businesses within Seaton that didn't get plan permission. So yeah, that's noted. Okay, Councillor Lyons. Thank you,
Chair. I've tried over and over again about this application, but I think the proposed scheme will enhance Seaton, especially if it's in the colours that's been shown to us today. I think it looks classy, and on the health and safety point of view as well. I've seen the window being lifted out and it's heavy, and I think for that reason I won't be going with the officer's recommendation, but I would like to approve the application rather than anything else and help the businesses of Seaton because they are struggling, especially at this time this year as well. So I will be going against the officer's recommendation.
Okay, Councillor Indridge.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I will be supporting the applicants.
Could you just move your microphone down, please?
Oh, yeah.
It's a coffee.
Sorry, can you hear me, Chair? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will be supporting the applicant this time. I think there's less than substantial harm, and the changes are only minor. Obviously, when you look at the front, Councillor Lyons just mentioned that. I think aesthetically, I think it would improve that, and it's also subjective when councillors, anybody else is looking at that. I do support the regeneration of seating. I was on the committee there that looked at the regeneration of seating 4 years ago before all the improvements come on, and I think that we need to be sympathetic. There will be a health and safety issue that's improved, and I do believe that we need to promote businesses as well and ask for the support of local councillors on this option. So I will be voting against the refusal, and I'll be supporting the applicant. Thank you.
Councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. Just a reminder to other members that while it may say less than substantial harm, there are only two types of harm to a conservation area: tearing a building down and anything else. So calling it less than substantial harm may not be the most appropriate thing. Nextly, it's already been voiced by the agent of the applicant that the rest of the area has already started to fall away from the usual standards of a conservation area, and that they expected the area to completely fall away from it in the foreseeable future. I personally don't see how racing down that track is helpful for Hartlepool in general, and that's just my 2 cents.
Okay. There's no more general debate. We'll move to the recommendation of officers, which is to refuse this application. So it's for refusal, against refusal, or abstention from refusal of the application, and we'll go to the roll call.
Thank you very much, Chair. We'll start with Stephen Akers-Belcher.
Against.
James Brewer.
For refusal.
Paddy Brown.
Against.
Bob Buchan.
For.
Shane Moore.
For.
Marjorie James.
For.
Jim Lindridge.
Against.
Brenda Lyons.
Against.
Carl Richardson.
Against.
Cameron Stokel.
Against.
And Mike Young.
Against.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 against and 4 for.
Okay, so we need to go towards another vote for approval of the application, but to come up with some material conditions as to the why the decision's being made. Does anybody want to come forward with? Oh, sorry, Jim Ferguson.
Sorry, Chair, if I can be of assistance. I've
Yeah,
listened carefully to what members have said, so I've come up with a couple of reasons. That the members consider that the proposals are acceptable in terms of their impact on the character and appearance of the conservation area, and also that members note the benefits to business and to the business and the economy and the health and safety of staff. And we record those as the reasons for departing from the officer recommendation today.
Tom Graham, barrister, do you have anything to add? Tom? Tom, you had your hand up, but we can't hear you. I don't think we've got Tom there. Tom Graham, are you there?
Right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What I said was that I'd heard what Jim had to say. He'd summarised it better than I was going to do anyway, so I'm quite content with what he had to say.
That's fine. Fair enough. Okay. We shall go to the vote. This time it is for approval.
Okay.
For approval, against approval, abstention from approval, and we'll go to the roll call, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. We'll start with Councillor Akers-Belcher. Councillor Brewer.
Against.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Buchan.
Against.
Councillor Moore.
Against.
Councillor James.
Against.
Councillor Lindridge,
4.
Councillor Loynes,
4.
Councillor Carl Richardson,
4.
Councillor Stokel,
4.
and Councillor Young.
4. That application is approved. Okay, we'll move on to item 5 of the agenda and 5.1, which is an appeal at the rear of Millbank Close and land at the Fens Hart Village area. Who's bringing that?
That's me. Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a bit of an unusual appeal. It was an application that was allowed, that we approved, sorry, as officers for 15 dwellings reserved matters. But we put a restrictive condition on to prevent any windows in the east-facing elevations of the properties with a view to protecting existing and future occupiers of the dwellings themselves, but also to without prejudicing future development of the adjacent land. However, the inspector took a different view and the appeal was allowed. So it's just for members to know that.
Okay, thank you. 5.2, has anybody got any burning desires to go through the complaints? Are you happy to speak to officers separately about those matters? I've had no comments, so we'll just we'll put that in place. I don't have any other business in this section, but Councillor James had mentioned that she would like to go to closed session to Councillor Loynes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Under any other business, you did say at the beginning that I could raise the site visits that I asked
Apologies, yes, sorry.
for Cropson Close and also Meadowcroft as well.
Do we have any
further update on that?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Jim Ferguson, do we have any, or Dan, do we have any update on what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do under the recent restrictions that have been put in place?
I think that would probably be one for our legal section, Mike. The last I heard was that we. Well, I'll let Tom cover that if we can.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, I mean the last position. I mean the regulations change at 5 minutes' notice, but the last time we looked at them, it was legally permissible to carry out a site visit subject to a risk assessment, and my advice was that we could clear it with the police in any event to make sure there are no problems. But I think the situation in Hartlepool has become more difficult because of the local lockdown. I live 140 miles away, so I'm not that familiar with it, but I understand that a local lockdown has been imposed, which I think raises the question of the, if you like, the publicity side of doing things.
Okay. Kieran, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just following up on what Tom and Jim have said there, that while legally I think we can still undertake site visits as part of the workplace, we've got to consider reputationally what we're doing as an authority as well. If we're telling people not to meet in groups more than 6, advising against non-essential travel, and then we've seen to be out there as a group, so we've got to be mindful of that. So I'm proposing to bring a paper to be discussed as any of the business for the next committee meeting with a range of options of how we take site visits forward.
Okay. I think that's fine. I think that's fair enough. Is that okay, Councillor Loynes, if we do that? We wait for that.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just delaying everything again, isn't it? You know, but yeah. I understand the situation. But yeah, I'll go with that. Yeah.
Councillor Moore and Councillor Akers-Belcher, okay with that, or do they still want to speak?
My hand isn't raised in relation to this, so if Stephen wants to speak on this, I'll let him go first.
Okay, I'd like to
suggest
as well is, can we not use technology? Do we necessarily have to go out in a group? Could a representative, if a risk assessment was carried out, not take camera footage with them and do that? Surely there must be a way, and I'm sure at some point, if we're not carrying out site visits and applications exceed that time, let's hope people will be reasonable and extend that time and agree to that. But surely there must be another way of doing this rather than everybody getting on a bus in a group, because you're right, it's not good from a reputational point of view, but I think there is other methods what can be used.
Yeah, I think all methods at our disposal are being looked at by Kieran. I think as he said, he's going to bring a paper to that effect. So we'll leave that there. Councillor Loynes, because it's still related to this matter. Do you want to speak again on this matter?
Yeah, it was just that my understanding is that the one at Meadowcroft isn't available on Google.
That's right. Yeah. So,
so that's why I asked for a site visit. Yeah. Cropston, yes, you can tell, but you don't get the feel unless you're actually there. I've done the site visit myself. I know the area very well, and I think that by going and seeing the actual area for parking, etc., would be helpful. That's why I called for a site visit on the 2. Okay, thank you.
Kieran, do you want to close this off?
Yeah, just to confirm, Chair, that I will bring a paper to the next committee that will outline all the options and involve the technology that we're proposing to do going forward.
Thank you. That's great. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, Councillor James mentioned right near the start of this meeting that she wanted to raise something on the clause. Yeah, and just in case, I wasn't suggesting she'd forgotten.
I'd forgot what Councillor Loynes had said. Remember what Councillor James had said. my mistake. Okay,
jump in on that one, Chairman. Jump in on that one, Chairman.
You can.
Yeah, there are no pink papers for this meeting.
Okay, so is there no mechanism for me to move into closed session?
Well, not unless we've got proper reasons for moving into closed session, and at the moment I haven't heard any. I mean, there are a host of legal rules that relate to moving into closed session, which we have to abide by, and we normally cover all of those in the pink papers, the written reports. But if we're going to move into closed session ad hoc, then we're going to have to revisit all of those relevant rules to see whether it's appropriate. And at the moment, I don't know whether it's appropriate, because I don't know why it's being suggested that we move into closed session anyway.
Can I comment, Chair, seeing as though it affects me? I personally am happy to share the information with members and officers that I want to share with them, whether that's in public or in private. I think the council may prefer for it to be in private. Because I will be naming names.
Well, with respect, Chairman, the naming of names, etc., is not a matter which is currently on the agenda. I mean, the committee has gone through all the
mail. Then I'll just speak to them instead.
The committee has gone through all of the agenda items. All of the relevant decisions have been made. So I'm not sure what agenda item this could possibly fall under.
I think the agenda item was to do with items requiring decision in section 4, and it was to do with plot 25. So item 3, plot 25, Haswell Avenue. Is that correct, Councillor James?
It is correct, and some members and officers in the room know what I'm going to say. Right. So you need to decide whether you want to know or you don't want to know. And if you don't want to know, you can read it in the mail by the end of the week.
Chair, can I have no objections, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what Councillor James is going to say, but I've got no objections, but it's up to other members.
Well, if we go off stream, Chair, then those members that want to know can remain, and those members that don't want to know can switch off.
I'll take some comments from the floor. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, item 6 is any other business which you yourself, Chair, consider urgent. I'd have no idea what Marjorie is going to mention, but it sounds relatively urgent if it's going to be in the press by the end of the week. So I think
if you don't listen to what I'm saying.
Listen, yeah.
I mean, it's one of those situations that whilst I appreciate that the matter seems urgent, I'm not sure what's going to be said. I mean, okay, Councillor Eggers-Belcher, I'll take your view.
Sorry. I think the point is, at the beginning of the meeting, the decision was made, with all respect, Chair, that Councillor James could have an item on pink, and that decision was made, and I think a decision has been reached on the pretense that, oh well, you've got the opportunity to deal with this, and I think if at the time, and again I say this with respect, at the time this should have been ruled out of order, because Councillor James has waited patiently till the end to bring this point forward, and my preference is we do deal with it, whether it's on pink or not. But also, if it's naming names, we've got to be mindful of the officer member protocol, and I think we should afford the opportunity to have this discussion. And I will say this: in the past, we have had at the end of meetings informal discussions where the meeting has been shut down and members are held back at the end of the meeting, and can we have a word in your shell? And that has been done many times in this process, so I think it would be unfair not to afford that process today.
I mean, I take on board what you're saying in terms of the decision. At that point, I didn't receive any legal advice, so it's kind of the legal advice has now been forthcoming, and it would appear that I'm in danger of breaking the law, which is which adds a new dimension. I think you'd agree, Councillor Buchan.
I would like to hear what Councillor Marjorie James has to say very much.
Okay, no problem at all. I think the general consensus is that Councillor Lindridge. Councillor Lindridge.
Sorry, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I do agree with Councillor James and Councillor Nicholas-Belcher. It is important. However, I would say that if it's a case of choice, that's incorrect. We all should be here. If it's a planning issue, and this is the issue that's been raised, we can't have some making a decision not to turn off and others to listen. So for the greater good, I think that we should hear what Councillor James has to say. Put it into closed session. Won't do any harm whatsoever, and people will be well informed. Thank you.
Lyons. Thank you, Councillor Lyons.
I'm in agreement. I'd like to hear what Councillor James has to say, whether it be in closed session or I don't want to break any laws or anything like that. But I think we should hear what she has to say. Thank you.
Chair, may I
David
offer some procedural advice?
Yeah.
If members wish to propose and have seconded and agree a resolution for the meeting to move into,
we've lost you there, David, for some reason. David?
No response.
David? David, we can't hear you at all. We've lost David and his procedural advice. I think what he was generally saying is if there was a proposer and a seconder to go into closed session, then we might be able to do that.
If we are allowed, might I propose?
Yes.
I'll second it, if that's okay.
Right, okay, so we've got Councillor Brewer proposing, Councillor Lyons seconding. I think on this occasion we'll go to the roll call, please.
Okay, Chair, thank you very much. So that's for approval to go into closed session and against approval to go into closed session. We'll start with Councillor Akers-Belcher.
4.
Councillor Brewer.
4.
Councillor Brown.
4.
Councillor Buchan.
4.
Councillor Moore.
4.
Councillor James.
4.
Councillor Lindridge.
4.
Councillor Lyons.
Councillor Lyons?
Sorry, I had a cough there. 4.
Councillor Richardson. Councillor Carl Richardson.
4.
Councillor Stokel.
4.
And Councillor Young.
4. Can we cut the live streaming then, please? And we'll go into closed session.